Hi, everybody. Shalom, Shmuel. Shalom, David Shimon. Shalom, Hannah Sarah.
Shalom, everybody. This is the first class of this Zman, right?
There's a doggy here. Let me unmute myself. A guest just came, so I guess the doggy was announcing it. Chevron.
And Rebbitzin Judy, this is the first class of the Zman, right?
The first class of the term, is that what you're saying? Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Okay, so they might be working out the link because this was sent on a WhatsApp group. Did you get an email with this link? Did you formally sign up?
I guess this is when you formally sign up. I'm not.
No, I'm just trying to think through if maybe Rabbi is giving shiur somewhere else on a different link that we're not on. Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Didn't he say that he's just finishing something? There was a note that I think I saw.
Oh, he did. Oh, I didn't see.
I mean, it came on onto my screen. I don't know. Is it not?
Oh, that was Rabbi David Bars.
Who?
That was Rabbi David Bars.
Oh. Oh,
Rabbi David Shimon. That wasn't Rav Fink.
I don't know. I can't. My phone is a little bit defuk, and it's not. I don't think it's going to let me go on something else. Can you look at the chat? Did you get this Zoom from email or the chat?
The WhatsApp chat.
Okay, so this I got it through the email.
Oh, you got it through an email. Oh, that's good.
So it's this. I guess it's the same one. If I'm looking at you.
No, that's a good sign.
Oh, he's usually very punctual.
Right. So I assume it's technical. Let me see.
You want to call him?
Yeah. I'm just emailing him our link in case.
What? Hannah Sarah.
Yeah.
Hi, Bubale. Can we see your face?
Oh, I can't because I'm on a phone that won't let me show my face.
Oh, okay. It's a sneer sticker phone, huh?
Yeah, you know, I'll call Rav Fink.
Okay. So yeah, please call him up. Because I know that Yehudit is also on this. Did he answer? Oh, he's on at 1:45. That's why, right? It's a new time. Hannah Sarah,
Yeah,
listen, in this, from now on, the classes,
yeah.
I just remembered it's at 1:45 and not 1:30, because we usually
Okay.
a little problem switching from Sheva Chaya's class to this. And we needed more time. So we're going to, yeah, I just remembered that it's at 1:45. So
Yeah.
we have another 6 minutes or something. Okay, so come back, okay?
Okay.
All right. Yeah, remember that it's at 1:45. Yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot. I temporarily
Oh,
forgotten. Yeah. In the meantime, I'm happy to talk with you. So yeah, I'm in Hebron at Leah's.
okay. Wait, I'm trying to.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I guess they made a mistake on the poster. I don't know.
Yes, so it's I just called Rav Fink and he said it's starting at 1:45. Okay,
Heard that he changed it to 45.
I don't know if it was him. He said he was told, so I didn't sound like he was establishing it himself.
Okay, so we have what, 5 more minutes until 1:45.
Yes.
Okay, so see you soon ish.
See you soon. Yes.
Kol tov.
Kol tov.
Oh,
Be well.
listen. Well, since you're on this, let me ask you something. Did Yisrael Alon get in touch with you?
No, I talked to God. I felt very sick the next day, and so I didn't end up following up with that. No.
So I know that that he's going to be in touch with you because the sukkah poles are still down.
Yes,
And
great.
it's a problem because I'm afraid that if the roof is going to be rained on, it's going to be slippery, and then it's not going to be safe enough. And
I hear you
also,
loud and clear. I'll get in touch with Israel.
that's on the roof side, and on the ground side, I'm always afraid that somebody is going to be just turning the corner and is going to, I don't know, somehow bump into it, or I don't know, something
Sounds
without.
good, Robertson.
So it's
I
a bit.
completely understand. I'll reach out to Israel. I'm gonna use the restroom before the class, but I'll reach out to him. Thank you for letting me
Yeah.
know this.
Please do that, because I really don't want to be responsible for anyone, God forbid, getting hurt. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will. I'll reach out to him.
All right. So see you in 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. It's 1:45, which for some reason I thought was the scheduled time to begin this class. Just shows you how disorganized I am. But
No,
we'll,
I think you were right. There was an announcement at 1:45. You're all good for 1:45.
okay, so I'm not losing my marbles. Okay,
Not at all.
good. They tell a story of Reb Moshe Feinstein, where once a Talmud of his asked him a question, and he paskined a shaila. He decided he issued his halachic decision, and the Talmud then said to Rav Moshe, "But what you have said contradicts the Magen Avram." And this upset Rav Moshe greatly. And Rav Moshe said, "What do you mean I'm contradicting the Magen Avram? Bring me a copy and show me." And the Talmud brought a copy and looked it up and said, "Oh, yes, Reb Moshe, you're right. I misread the Magen Avram." To which the Igros Moshe, Reb Moshe Feinstein, sighed a great sigh of relief, saying, I decide many halachic issues every day based on my memory. And if I incorrectly remember the Magen Avram, then I'm out of business paskening halachic questions. Well, I guess my punctuality is still okay. The topic for today is going to be tefillah, davening, prayer, while there's a war going on. But before I come to that, let me ask you if you have any questions of a halachic nature, perhaps pertaining to war or to anything which need addressing at the moment. Any questions you wish to raise? Okay, I'm gonna.
To raise my questions in public.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay.
Questions, I will remain mum.
Okay, I'm happy to speak with you in private about issues.
Okay, no, I'll keep them to my neshama. Thank
okay. Okay, let me get the sources on the screen here. I just have to click share screen. Blah, blah, blah. I think I got it. Okay. Now, there's no end of issues regarding tefillah, davening, prayer, and wartime. I'm going to start with one issue, but as with every other little corner of halacha, the issue we're about to address reveals fundamental principles which have very broad application. We're going to talk about what happens if you hear an air raid siren while you are in your silent prayer, the Amidah, the Shmona Esrei. You're davening a silent prayer, and you're not supposed to interrupt that. But as an air raid siren, what are you supposed to do? Well, let's see what the Gemara says. Well, they didn't have air raid sirens back in the days of the Gemara, but let's see what the Gemara says, a closely related issue, and then we'll see how the later posts can deal with this. What it says in the Gemara in Brachas, the Gemara is talking about someone who is davening Shmona Esrei, the Amidah, the silent prayer, and afilu melech shoel b'shlomo. Even if a king comes and greets you, lo yashivenu, you do not respond to the king. Now, of course, this is fairly simple and straightforward fairly simple to understand and straightforward. If you are standing before the Shekhinah in the divine presence, uttering your prayer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so that's, of course, the King of Kings, more important than the King of Basar V'Dam, the flesh and blood king who happens to greet you. So, of course, you're not going to abandon your prayer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and respond to the king. That's fairly simple and straightforward. Then the Gemara says, Afilu nachash karuch al akevo, even if a snake is coiled around your heel, around your foot, even if a snake has coiled itself around your leg, lo yafsik, you do not stop your prayer. Now, even though you have this dangerous situation of the snake, which has coiled itself around your heel, your ankle, your leg, wherever it doesn't matter where on the body, the snake has coiled itself. Still, you just keep davening without interrupting. Now, of course, just because there's a brisa like this in the Gemara does not necessarily mean that this is a halacha which is embraced by the later poskim. After all, it might be a contradictory passage somewhere else in the Gemara. We can't make decisions based on just one quotation from the Gemara. You need the big picture. So let's see what the Shulchan Aruch has to say. Here we have the text of the Shulchan Aruch, which is based not only on this one passage, but on the broader picture of understanding everything else that the Gemara has to say throughout the length and breadth of the Talmud. Here's what it says. Haya, this is the Shulchan Aruch. Haya mitpalel. Someone was davening, Shmona Esrei, Amidah, silent prayer, baderech, and you're on the road. You're traveling from one place to another. It's time for mincha or whatever you're davening, and here you are davening on the road, on the street. A lot of people walking back and forth on the street. That's the way streets were in those days. Uba behema okaron kenegdo. And all of a sudden, an animal, an ox, a mule, a horse, some animal, or a horse and carriage is coming towards you. And you're standing in the way of this ox, this mule, this horse and wagon, horse and carriage, whatever it is, you're standing in the way, and it's coming straight towards you on the road. Now, you chose a very bad place to daven, but maybe you didn't have much of a choice. Maybe they're not a whole lot, or maybe you just made a bad choice. Maybe there were a lot of better places to stand when you're davening, but you made a bad choice. But now you're stuck there. What are you supposed to do? Yateh min haderech. You should leave the road. You're in the middle of Shmona Esrei. You should leave the road, but lo yafsik. But don't stop the prayer. Get out of the way of the horse and wagon, but don't stop your prayer. The Mishnah Brura says on this passage in the Shulchan Aruch, Aftu sakansa shelo yaval behema v'karan alav. Even though you're in danger, you don't want to get run over by the horse and carriage. Even though there is danger here, makom makom, nonetheless. Since you can save yourself just by stepping off the road, you're not allowed to interrupt your prayer with words. You're not allowed to call out, hey, stop, or hey, look where you're going, or hey, be careful. You're not allowed to use words to interrupt your prayer. The words you're saying for the prayer will be the continuation of the text of the Siddur, the Shmona Esrei. You can save yourself just by stepping aside off the road, but you can't speak, even though just calling attention to the driver, the camel driver, the ox driver, whatever it is, even though just calling attention, hey guy, watch where you're going, even though that would save you, the driver would divert and not hit you. There's no excuse for speaking, since you can save yourself just by stepping aside. But if there's any other disturbance aside from an animal or a horse and carriage coming towards you while you're standing on the road, any other disturbance, You should never abandon your place. Don't move an inch. Ad sheyigmor tfilato, until you finish the prayer. Unless you already finished your prayer, and you said that already, and you're just doing the Elokai Neshama, the additional Tachanunim, which are after Shmona Esrei. There you can move if there's danger. But if you're still in the prayer up to Hamavarech Amo Yisrael B'Shalom, Yihiyu L'Ratzon Imrei Fi V'Hegyon Libi, up to there, you should never abandon your space unless the camel is coming straight towards you. Even if a snake is coiled on your heel, on your ankle, on your leg, wherever it's coiled, lo yafsik, do not stop. Do not stop your prayer. And the Ramah, the Ashkenaz commentator, adds, although the halacha is, do not stop your prayer, still, you're allowed to walk somewhere and shake the snake off your leg. You can shake the snake off your, go somewhere and shake it off your leg. Oh, now this is very difficult to understand. How can we simultaneously be told not to stop the prayer and at the same time be told, go somewhere and shake the snake off your leg? It would seem to be two contradictory instructions. Well, apparently, this is a disagreement between the Mechaber, Reb Yosef Karo, the Sephardic authority who wrote Shulchan Aruch, who said, don't stop, as opposed to the opinion of the Ramah, the Ashkenaz commentator, who said, well, you can interrupt your prayer and go someplace and shake the snake off your leg. That would seem to be a controversy, one of a huge number of controversies between the Mechaber, Reb Yosef Karo, the author of the Shulchan Aruch, and the Ramah, the Ashkenaz commentator. The Shulchan Aruch ends by saying, all this has to do with a camel, an ox, a horse and carriage, which is coming straight towards you. All this has to do with a snake, which is coiled on your body. But if it's a scorpion, posek, then you should stop the tefillah if a scorpion is coming towards you. Because scorpions are more dangerous than snakes. There are plenty of species of snakes which are really not dangerous. There are plenty of snakes which are not going to hurt you. Scorpions, on the other hand, are much more dangerous. Scorpions, there's no such thing as a scorpion which is not dangerous. And even a snake, if you see that the snake is angry and getting ready to attack, the rattle is rattling, and you see that the snake is getting ready to attack, posek, then you can stop. Now, according to the Shulchan Aruch, there are different levels of danger. Scorpions are very dangerous. Therefore, one stops one's silent prayer in the middle. Other things are not so dangerous. Snakes. Sometimes things which are usually not so dangerous demonstrate their danger. You see that the snake, which is normally not very dangerous and would probably want to run away from you, is getting ready to attack you. Different levels of danger, according to Shulchan Aruch. Now, this means that we have to give some thought to what the level of danger is. if we hear a fire, if we hear an air raid siren during the Shmona Esrei? Is it danger like a scorpion? Or is it, in which case, we'll stop our prayer in the middle? Or is it danger like an ordinary snake? Could be dangerous, but probably not. Or is it like a snake, which is demonstrating that it's getting ready to attack you, which is more dangerous? Well, how are we supposed to evaluate? What are the rules? What are the halachic rules for evaluating the danger of an air raid attack? Let's see what the commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch have to say. First of all, the Magen Avraham. Magen Avraham is probably the most important commentary on the Shulchan Aruch. It's in the outside margin of the standard editions of the Shulchan Aruch. And he says there is no machloket here. There is no disagreement between the Mechaber, Reb Yosef Karo, the author of the Shulchan Aruch, and the Ramah, the Ashkenaz commentator, even though a simple, straightforward reading implies that they disagree with each other. According to the Reb Yosef Karo, you don't interrupt your prayer for the snake, and according to the Ramah, you do interrupt your prayer for the snake by going somewhere and shaking your leg so it'll fall off. Even though a simple reading seems to indicate that that's a controversy, no, really, there's really no controversy here. Delo matzinu halicha shenikra hafsaka b'shum makom. Because just moving from one place to another is not considered a hafsaka, is not considered an interruption of your prayer. Nowhere in the whole of rabbinic literature, nowhere in the Mishnah, nowhere in the Gemara, nowhere in the Rambam, nowhere anywhere is just moving from one place to another considered a hefsek, an interruption in whatever you are doing. And therefore, everyone agrees. When the Shulchan Aruch said, do not interrupt your prayer when the snake is coiled around your body, what the Shulchan Aruch meant was, do not speak, remain silent. Do not interrupt your prayer with words. But just moving to another place, everyone agrees that's okay. Makom makom shelo letzorech aser, if there's no need to go to another place, so of course you just continue davening where you are standing. Well, according to the Magen Avraham, everyone agrees that if there is some danger, the sirens are heard, one does not interrupt one's prayer with speech. You don't say anything. You just go to a safe place, a merchav mugan, a protected, a secure location, and then you just continue your silent prayer from the point you left off. But you move to the safe place. That, according to the Magen Avraham, that's everyone's opinion, and therefore, not surprisingly, that's the opinion which is embraced by all subsequent poskim. Bottom line, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about wartime and you hear a siren, or you happen to live in a place which is on an earthquake fault, and you feel the rumbling of the building starting, or chas v'shalom, a fire breaks out in the building where you are down. It doesn't matter what the source of threat is. If there is a threat, one moves to a secure location, and then you just continue the silent prayer from wherever you left off. That is the way that Magen Avraham understands the sources, and that is the opinion which is embraced by all the subsequent poskim. Now let's see where this leads us. The Taz, on the inside margin of the standard editions of the Shulchan Aruch, deals with the following question. The Shulchan Aruch says, Halovesh talit katan. Someone who wakes up in the morning, a man who wakes up in the morning, puts on a talit katan, and then typically, like I do, a shirt over the talit katan. Mevarech halav. You make a bracha when you put on the talit katan. Ukeshaholech lebeit knesset. Now, after you got dressed, wake up in the morning, you got dressed, wearing your talit katan, then you go to the synagogue. Mitatef b'talit gadol. In the synagogue, you put on the big talis. Sarich levarech. You have to make another bracha on the talit gadol. Because walking from home to the Beit Knesset, walking from home to shul is an interruption, and therefore the bracha that you said in the talit katan does not cover the talit gadol, which you're going to put on after walking. The Shulchan Aruch seems to imply clearly that walking from one place to another is a hefsek. It is an interruption, just the opposite of what the Magen Avraham and all the other poskim taught us previously. Well, this is a pretty powerful question. How are we going to deal with this halacha, according to which just walking from one place to another is an interruption, and therefore not allowed to do it? The Taz explains as follows. Hatam, she'tzrichu levarech shenit al talit gadol b'veit knesset. The reason the first bracha on the talit katan does not continue to cover you when you put on the talit gadol in the Beit Knesset, the reason that walking to the shul is an interruption, mishum dev'sha'a shemevarech al talit katan b'veito maniach techef tefillin achakach, because you're going to be doing some activities between the talit katan and the talit gadol. In those days, they would put on tefillin. The men would put on tefillin at home after getting dressed, and then they would walk to the synagogue wearing their tefillin, and in the synagogue, they'd put on a talit gadol. Wow. Putting on the tefillin is surely an interruption. And any speech is an interruption. And since nowadays, even though you're probably not going to put on tefillin at home and walk to shul with the tefillin on, still you're going to be speaking with people, you greet people, say hello to people. There's going to be speech in between. Putting on a talit katan and a talit gadol, speech is surely a hefsek, surely an interruption. Achakach maniach beveit haKnesset talit gadol, im kein birkat tefillin have hefsek. Any speech is an interruption, but just walking from one place to another is not. Well, the Taz is left with the same conclusion as the Magen Avraham. Bottom line, everyone is in agreement that if there's some danger, we've not yet defined what some danger is, we're going to come to that, but if there is some danger, then you just move to a secure place. It doesn't matter whether it's an air raid, earthquake, a fire, doesn't matter what the source of the danger is. You just go to a secure place and continue your silent prayer from where you left off. Now, let's see, La'an hadvarim magi'im. Let's see how far the poskim take this idea. Mishnah Brura says, and Mishnah Brura is a pretty authoritative source, isn't he? Mishnah Brura says, Ha'omed b'tefillah, someone who is davening, and while davening, nistapek, a doubt arises in your mind, be'ezedin, regarding some halacha. What should you do? Here he is, here she is, here the person is davening, and in the middle of the prayer, the person said, Moridatal, instead of Mashiva Ruach Morida Geshem. And I realized immediately that I made a mistake. Oh, but now what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to go back to the beginning of the Shemona Esrei? Or even though I made a mistake, do I continue? I don't know. I realize I made a mistake in the prayer, but what am I supposed to do now? Maybe I forgot Ritzei on Shabbos. Maybe I forgot Ya'aleh v'Yovo on Shabbos. I realize I made a mistake, but now what am I supposed to do? Am I Yotze B'diavad? After the fact is all well and I don't have to daven again? Or do I have to go back to Ya'aleh v'Yovo and start from there? Or do I have to go back to the beginning of the Shemona Esrei? What am I supposed to do after I realize I made a mistake? Well, mutar lelech mimkomo, you can betake yourself, you can move from where you are praying to the bookshelf. L'makam miyuchad, you go to the bookshelf, take a sefer off the shelf, look up the halacha, and then put the sefer back on the shelf, and now you'll know what to do. Either continue davening from where you were, or go back to the beginning. You're moving from one place to another is not considered an interruption. I'll give you another typical example that we find in the contemporary poskim. What happens if while you are davening, you hear a noise which disturbs you? You open up your eyes for a moment to see what's going on, and you see, a sefer has fallen on the floor right over there. I heard it fall, and now I see it on the floor, and that disturbs me. That disturbs the sefer on the floor over there disturbs my kavanah. It's not right. It's not respectful for the sefer. Well, I can just walk to where the sefer fell on the floor, pick it up, give it a little kiss, pick it up, put it on a safe place, and continue my silent prayer from where I left off. As long I cannot say, hey, look at that sefer over there. Would someone please pick it up? I cannot interrupt with words. And just as I cannot interrupt with words, I cannot interrupt with hand signals or sign language. If someone is deaf and will be able to understand sign language, that's the same as words. That's communicating, whether you actually use speech or other methods to communicate. It's all prohibited during Shemona Esrei. So you can't even attract someone's attention and point to the sefer that fell on the floor to get them to pick it up. Instead, you just go there yourself and pick it up. Just moving is not an interruption of your prayer. Communicating with others during your silent prayer is prohibited. Okay, therefore, it doesn't matter whether it's wartime, earthquake, or a fire hazard. One can move, one should move to a secure location and just complete the Shemona Esrei. In the Bir Halacha section of the Shulchan Aruch, in the Bir Halacha section of the Mishnah Berurah, he says about that snake. Hatam mishum derov pa'amim meina noshech. Most time, the majority of times, snakes won't bite you. The majority of snakes. The majority of snakes, don't worry, don't worry, the majority of snakes won't bite you, and therefore ignore it. But if you're afraid that it might kill you, then the halacha of snakes is the same as the halacha of scorpions, and you do whatever is necessary to save your life. Now, this Mishnah Berurah is a little bit strange, a little bit difficult. to understand. Most people don't die in this situation, and since only 49% of the people die in this situation, it's not important. Just forget about it. According to this, hearing a siren, well, not the majority of the population is not going to die just because you hear a siren. According to this, rov ha'pa'amim, majority of times you're going to survive, and therefore you should ignore the siren. This is a very strange passage in the Mishnah Brura. The strangeness in this passage in the Mishnah Brura is rooted in the Rambam. The Mishnah Brura is basically just copying over an idea of the Rambam. Let's see the way the Rambam formulates the idea, and let's see if we can get some clarity about what is and what is not dangerous. The Rambam, in his commentary on the Mishnah, says as follows: if a snake is coiled around your body, the Rambam says, Din zehu benachash bilvad. When the Mishnah and eventually the Shulchan Aruch teach us, don't stop your prayer, it's talking about snakes, because eino nochesh berov hamikrim, because in the majority of cases, snakes do not bite you. And this is where the Mishnah Berurah got the idea from, straight out of the words of the Rambam. So the Rambam is equally strange and equally difficult to understand as the Mishnah Berurah was. Just because 49%, just because 51% of the people survive, that's a reason not to be concerned, which is apparently what the Rambam is saying, and that's just copied over by the Mishnah Berurah. Aval mashe darko lishoch tamid, whatever usually will bite you, the kind of creature, the species that will usually bite you, like a scorpion, ohafa, or a poisonous viper, mafsik, then you stop your prayer, kishiyere and ba'im kenegdo, when you see them approaching you, that's a threat to your life. Now, the Rambam seems to have contradicted himself in the space of 2 lines. It would be bad enough if the Rambam contradicted himself in 2 different passages, which he wrote in different periods of his life. That would be bad enough and would require careful thought and analysis. But this is a contradiction in the space of 2 lines. First, he tells us, Rov hamikrim, only majority of cases ending in death call for action. And the second line, he says, anything which is usually dangerous calls for action. He seems to have contradicted himself in the course of 2 lines. This needs some understanding. Let's see if we can gain that understanding now. There's a fundamental rule which the Rambam seems to be violating here. The fundamental rule is Ein holchim bepikuach nefesh achar harov. As far as life-threatening situations are concerned, we do not care about the majority. This is a fundamental rule. I'll give you the example of the Gemara, and you'll understand right away. A building collapses, and we are afraid, but we don't know for sure, that someone might be trapped under the building. Maybe the building was empty when it collapsed. Maybe someone is trapped under the rubble. Oh, if there's someone trapped under the rubble, maybe that person's already dead. Who knows? Still, one violates Shabbos, one violates Yom Kippur, You do whatever is necessary to excavate the rubble and to see whether or not a living person might be under the suffix piled upon suffix. We don't even know for sure that there's anyone there. And even if there is someone there, we don't know for sure that he or she is still alive. It doesn't matter what the suffix is. Still, Ein holchim achar harov. We do not follow the majority in matters of life saving as long as there's any possibility of threat to life. We must act in order to eliminate that threat to life. And the Rambam seems to have violated that principle. The Rambam seems to be saying, as long as rov mikrim, as long as the majority of snakes are not going to hurt you, then you shouldn't be concerned with any. That's a problem. Now we come to the understanding. I collected two of the great Acharonim, two of the great modern rabbis who have explanations for what the Rambam meant. Let's take a look first at the Kovetz Shiurim. Kovetz Shiurim was written by Rav Fink Prayer. He was murdered by the Nazis in the Holocaust, but before the Holocaust, he was one of the leading Rosh Yeshiva in Eastern Europe. He was the Rosh Yeshiva in Baranovich. And this sefer, a collection of his shiurim, is a sefer of great influence in the yeshiva world today. He writes about checking for chametz. On the night before Pesach, you have to check your house for chametz. The Mishnah says, and the Shulchan Aruch agrees, when you're checking the house for chametz, you have to put your hand, you have to check in horeb ustakim. If there are cracks in the wall, crack big enough you can get your hand into. If there are niches or holes in the wall, big enough to get your hand into, you have to stick your hand in there and see whether or not there's any chametz in there. Now, what about the possibility of there being a scorpion in the hole? It's always in the Near East. It's always possible that a scorpion could grief. I know. There are places and times in Israel where there's so many scorpions around. I remember a summer I spent in the north. So many scorpions. You just saw them all over the place that one would dare not put on one's shoes without first shaking the shoes vigorously to make sure there was no scorpion in them before you put on your shoes. Well, if there are scorpions around and outside of major urban centers, that's a very real possibility. Why should you stick your hand into a hole in the wall to see whether or not there's any chametz there? Maybe you're just going to be attacked by a scorpion. Well, this is what Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman writes like this: Sakanat akrav, the danger of a scorpion, lo chashiv shchiach haseker. That's not very common. It's true there are a lot of scorpions around, but not very many in your house. Right? Scorpions do not enter the house very often. In the Gemara, lo shanu ela nachash. The Gemara mentions only snakes. Aval akrav posek. According to the Gemara, if a snake is around your leg, you do not stop prayer. If it's a scorpion, you do stop. Rashi explains exactly the same way that Rambam and the Mishnah Berurah do. Rov nechashim, the majority of snakes are not dangerous. Well, this is hard to understand. Why does the Gemara and the Rambam and the Mishnah Berurah and Rashi all rely upon the principle of majority of snakes not being dangerous? After all, the majority of air raids are not going to result in death. Imkain, tzarich lachush l'miyut memisim. Why are we not concerned with the possibility of there being a scorpion in the hole of the wall when you check for chametz? Yesh lamar. The understanding of all this is kevan deruban ein memisim have kolosh chiach hezeka memela yesh l'smocha ha deshluchei mitzvah einan nizoken. If you are engaged in a mitzvah activity, you are rashai. You have permission to ignore the danger and go ahead with the performance of the mitzvah. Of course, you are permitted to interrupt the mitzvah and go to a secure place, but you're not obligated to do that. If you are engaged in a mitzvah, you are permitted to be strict and continue the performance of the mitzvah, even though it might be dangerous. I'll give you an example, and you'll understand how it works. The Mishnah Halachas, Rav Menashe Klein, the Ungvar Arav, originally from Ungvar in Hungary, spent most of the Holocaust in Buchenwald concentration camp, where he was one of the few to survive, one of the very few to survive Buchenwald. And he tells the story of Yom Kippur in Buchenwald, where the Nazis forced the Jews in Buchenwald, in the concentration camp, to do hard labor. Every day they were forced to do hard labor, and on Yom Kippur as well. The Nazis did feed the Jews in Buchenwald, but absolute rock bottom minimum number of calories a day, just enough to survive. Along comes Yom Kippur, and the young Ungvar, he was not yet the Ungvar Arav, he was still a young man in Buchenwald. He later inherited his father's position as Ungvar Arav, and that was in New York. In any event, the young man, Menashe Klein, decided that he is going to fast on Yom Kippur, even though he is forced to engage in hard labor, and even though he's at the starvation level, about to starve to death in any event. His reasoning was, if I am going to die, I might as well die doing a mitzvah. That is the idea of the Kovetz Shiurim. If you are engaged in a mitzvah and a dangerous situation arises, you are permitted to continue performing the mitzvah, even though there's a threat to life. And that's a decision you can make. There's no prohibition to interrupt the performance of the mitzvah and go to a secure location. There's no prohibition to stop the mitzvah, but you are allowed to continue the mitzvah if you wish. Akrav posek t'shliach hezeka, hainu hosam deroi akrav. The permission that you have to continue doing the mitzvah, even though there might be some danger, that permission applies only in cases where the threat is small. There's a small threat that you might die, but you're probably, more than 50% probability, you're probably going to survive. If you're probably going to survive, then you have the right to decide that you wish to continue performing the mitzvah and ignore the danger of halacha. But in a case where the majority of situations will lead to death, you do not have a choice. You must stop the mitzvah and go to a secure location, or If it's a question of starving to death, you have to eat so as to survive. That is how the Kovitz Shiurim understands the resolution of the whole problem. According to this, we do not go according to the majority if you are engaged in a mitzvah endeavor, and if you are engaged in performance of a mitzvah, then you have a choice, as long as the danger is not likely more than 50% of the times to be fatal. Let's see how this plays out in a more recent poskim. He was from before the Holocaust. Sefer Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata by Rav Neuwirth, surely the most influential handbook, the most widely accepted handbook of Hilchot Shabbat. He quotes his teacher, Reb Shlomo Carlebach, one of the great rabbis of the 20th century, regarding a chola misukan, someone in a life-threatening situation on Yom Kippur, a patient, this disease, that disease, a life-threatening disease on Yom Kippur. And this is what Reb Shlomo Zalman said. Efsher, tivagavne shezer rak chash miut. If the danger to the patient on Yom Kippur, if the threat to life is minor, namely, the majority of patients are going to survive, only the minority will die on Yom Kippur. If that's the case, mutar l'chachmir v'latzum, it is permitted to fast. You're engaged in the mitzvah, and if you wish to, you can continue the mitzvah. L'smoch t'shomer mitzvah lo yedara, you can rely upon what it says in the Torah. Performance of a mitzvah will protect you. If you wish, you can rely upon that. Lo chashiv k'shchiach hezeka, that is not considered common threat because it's a situation where the threat to life is less than 50%. If the threat to life, on the other hand, more than half of the patients in your situation die, you don't have a choice. You have to interrupt the performance of the mitzvah and do what is necessary to save lives. So this idea of the Kovitz Shiurim of Rabbi Chanan Wasserman is later embraced by contemporary poskim as well today as well. Bottom line, if you are davening and there's some indication of threat to life, if the threat is so great that most people would die, you have no choice but to go to a safe location. No need to speak. Just go to a safe location and continue the silent prayer. If it's a situation in which the danger is a threat such that most people would die, then you do whatever is necessary in order to deal with the case. Though that's the bottom line conclusion here. Okay? With this, I've covered the basic issues of tefillah. Now I'm open for questions.
Rabbi, I think that last sentence you mentioned was blurred. What you said, if the threat to life is so great that most people will die, you'd go to a safe.
Then you do whatever is necessary to deal with the threat. Whatever is necessary.
Okay. It's interesting. The other day I was studying in Nachlaot with Nechama Wells.
Yes.
And there was a big boom. So we had no siren to warn us.
Mm-hmm.
And, the windows rattled. And because I feel now in retrospect, I can say because we were studying, we didn't need a siren and we stayed where we were. And I'm here to tell the tale.
You were permitted to do so. That was not a violation of any principles. That was okay. Okay. Let me point out also that when one is in a life-threatening situation, the poskim are divided about whether you should try to minimize the violations of halacha in dealing with the life threat, or you just ignore halacha entirely and do whatever you would normally do in order to save yourself. This is a machlokes, a disagreement among the poskim, the whole Torah kula, throughout the length and breadth of Torah. Here the majority view is, the mainstream view, the majority view is that if there's a threat to life, then you just ignore halacha. There's no reason to try to minimize your violations of halacha. You just do whatever you would want to do in order to deal with the threat to life. That's the majority view, and that's the opinion of most mainstream poskim. Since this other opinion also exists, that one should try to minimize the violations of halacha, if you have the presence of mind, if you are sufficiently calm, and if you are able to think about minimizing the violations of halacha in order to save life, that's nice to do. That's commendable. That's praiseworthy. Not exactly required, but since this opinion exists, if you can cover this opinion as well, if you're sufficiently calm and have presence of mind, that would be advisable, but not required.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we have other questions. I also want to know if you have specific issues that we should discuss in future classes. If so, feel free to send me an email and I'll add them to the list. Okay, then let us conclude with this today. I wish you a good week and a safe week, and eventually a good Shabbos. Look forward to seeing you all again next week, 1:45 Israel time.
Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
Tודה raba, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
B'vakasha.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.